Geometry, Unit 7, which is Chapter 5 from the book, Section 3, Kites and Trapezoid Properties. So, properties of a kite. First off, it's a quadrilateral. It has two sets of adjacent sides that are congruent. So in this diagram here, these sides are congruent, and then these sides are congruent. The diagonals are perpendicular, and the diagonal from the vertex to vertex, this is a vertex, this is the vertex. The vertex on kites are in between the congruent sides. The diagonals from the vertex to the vertex bisects the vertex angles. So these angles are congruent, these angles are congruent, and it bisects the other diagonal. So we have these sides are congruent. Now this and this angle, these are non-vertex angles on a kite. So let's look at a kite here and let's solve for all the unknown angles. So we have here one angle is 33 degrees. Well, we know the diagonals bisect each other, so that's 90. So we have here as a triangle, so we can solve for this angle. They add up to 180, thus we know this is going to be 57. I know this is 90 degrees. Since those two sides are congruent, that's an isosceles triangle. We know the diagonal bisects from the vertex to vertex, bisects the other diagonal, so we know those two are congruent. So this is also a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And we know the diagonal bisects the vertex angles, thus that has to be 33. And then this one's 57. So there we go. We solved all of the unknown angles. And let's now solve for some unknown sides. Well, we're given the perimeters 36 to 36. We know those two are congruent, so that's got to be 10. These two got to be congruent. So 36 minus 20 is 16. Divide that by 2, and we get those segments have to be 8. We know the diagonals are perpendicular. So here we have a right triangle. We can use Pythagorean theorem. 8 squared plus x squared equals 10 squared. So that's 64 plus x squared equals 100. So x squared is 36. Square root of 36, we know is 6. So that side's 6, so we know that's going to be 6. Now we just got to figure out for this side. Well, I'm going to do Pythagorean theorem again. So I'll call it y. So 6 squared plus y squared equals 8 squared. So 36 plus y squared equals 64. So y squared is 28. So y is the square root of 28. We can simplify that. Square root of 28. 2 goes into that, leaving 14. 2 goes into that, 7. Pair of 2s, so it's 2 square root of 7. And that's the length of that segment. And there we go. We solved for all the unknown sides. Let's construct a kite. All right, so to construct a kite, let's first just make our compass equal to the length of the longer segment. So I'm going to make it equal to this length. I'm going to draw the arc to indicate that I have it equal to that length. I'm going to put then a random dot here. That's going to be my point of rotation. And I'm going to make an arc, a big old arc. Now I'm going to choose at random 2 points on this arc. Again, it's at random. So here and here. Now I know these segments, since they're radiuses, we know these segments are congruent. So I've got the first part of the kite. Now let's go back to our compass. Let's get it equal to this length. Again, I'll make the arc to demonstrate I did that. And then I'm going to put my compass, at the point on the arc, and I'm looking for my two new arcs to intercept. And there we go. There is our kite. And I know these two segments are also congruent because they're the same length with the compass. And there we go. We've constructed a kite with those two segments. Now let's look at the properties of a trapezoid. First off, trapezoids are quadrilaterals, and you have one set of opposite sides are parallel. There we go. That's the properties of a trapezoid. Now let's look at isosceles trapezoids. Isosceles trapezoids have congruent legs. The non-parallel sides are called the legs. The parallel sides are called the bases. So on isosceles, the legs are congruent. The diagonals of isosceles trapezoids are congruent. And the base angles on isosceles trapezoids are congruent. So these angles are congruent, and then these angles are congruent. So let's solve for all of the unknown angles here on this trapezoid. So we know, so we've got one other property. These angles add up to 180. These angles add up to 180. So here, these add up to 180. So we know this angle is 105. These also add up to 180, so we know it's 57. Oh, look, we got a linear pair here. So it's got to be 123. On a isosceles trapezoid here, we know base angles are congruent. So that's got to be 57. It's also got to be 57. And there we go. We solved for all of the unknown angles. Now let's construct an isosceles trapezoid. So I'm just going to draw a line here of an unknown length. And now I'm going to take my compass, and I'm going to get my compass to be the length of this longer base. And I'm going to draw that here. So I now have a segment that is the same length as that longer base. I'm now going to take my compass and make it match the length of my legs. Since I'm constructing an isosceles trapezoid, the legs are going to be congruent. So I'm going to make a big arc, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to make a big arc on the other side. Now I'm going to get my compass. I'm going to set it equal to the length of my other leg. There we go. Now I'm going to take it and I'm going to move it along my first arc, move my rotation point along my first arc until it's hitting the second arc. There we go. You can see it hit that second arc. I forgot to mark the other side. Now I can construct, connect my lines, and there we go. I have an isosceles trapezoid. And that is the end of this section.